Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I want to thank you all for being here. We're going to dive right in here in a moment. First, I just want to acknowledge those of you who are here on the call. If you can hear me, can you just give a little thumbs up or a hello in the chat box? Great. And so we're here for a little introduction to nonviolent communication, or what is often referred to as NVC for short. Something that is very near and dear to my heart. I'm quite excited to present to you today this brief PowerPoint presentation. It'll last about an hour, about 45 minutes actually. I've saved about 15 minutes of the call for questions, and perhaps you have a relational issue that you brought to the call that you would like some help or guidance or support in. We're going to save that for another call, and also at the end of the call I am going to make an invitation to join my 10-week compassion coaching program, which dives even deeper into the concepts of NVC and starts showing you how to embody them and employ them in your life. So there is going to be a little bit of a sales pitch, nothing too big. It's just a soft pitch. It's an invitation, really. And I've been doing this for a while, and I'm just very passionate about it. I love teaching these things to people. Before we dive in, let's take a brief moment to close our eyes and take a deep breath together. So I invite you now to go ahead and close your eyes. Just take a moment. Let us take the inward journey together. Take a deep breath. Release with a gentle sigh. Congratulations, you've made it here today for whatever reason, whether it was curiosity, perhaps a longing for a deeper connection, or maybe it's something you can't quite name yet. Whatever brought you here, trust that you're exactly where you need to be. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shiva J, and I am a Tantra teacher and a transformational empowerment coach. I'm a somatic therapist by trade, but Tantra is the primary toolkit that I use, second only to the tools that have been afforded to me through nonviolent communication. More than that, I guide individuals and couples through deep, life-changing experiences that help them step fully into their power, their intimacy, and their truth. We live in a world that often disconnects us from ourselves, from our relationships, and from our own desires. And my work is about undoing that disconnection and helping you reclaim your body, your voice, your pleasure, your presence. And whether that's through Tantra, NVC, embodiment practices, or deep inner work, my goal is always the same: to help you come home to yourself. And I want to be very transparent with my audience and let you know that I was not always the person that you see standing in front of you today, that you hear on this recording. There was a time when I struggled with relationships, I struggled with intimacy, and I really struggled with being present. And so I know what it's like to feel disconnected, to not fully understand how to show up in love, in passion, or even in my own body. And my journey through Tantra and transformational work, discovering NVC, it wasn't just about learning, it was about reclaiming myself. And now I hope others do the same. And that's exactly what we're here to do today. That's what we're going to do today. So this workshop isn't just about learning, it's about experiencing something that could shift the way that you see yourself and your relationships. My invitation to you is to stay open, to be curious, and trust that whatever shows up for you in this space is meant for you. So today, I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite themes: the concept of nonviolent communication. Let's dive in. Well, first of all, what the heck is nonviolent communication? I'm going to be really transparent. I love just being authentic and shooting from the hip. I feel it's a great way to connect. And I will share with you that the first time somebody mentioned the word NVC, nonviolent communication, does that infer that there is violent communication? Well, let's find out. Nonviolent communication guides us to reframe how we express ourselves. More importantly, how we hear others and resolve conflicts by focusing our consciousness on what we are observing, feeling, needing, and requesting. It's a tool that leads us towards the quality of connection among people where everyone's needs are valued and get met through compassionate giving out of the simple joy of contributing to another human being. And the potency of NVC is, in its very essence, pragmatic simplicity. That's interesting, right? So I'm going to teach you some tools that will enhance connection and understanding, because in any moment there are going to be two ways to enhance connection and understanding. One, you can vulnerably express your own feelings, needs, or empathically listen to the feelings and needs of others. Now, these are two totally radically different choices than we might be accustomed to experience when we are in conflict. Namely, we experience flight, fight, submit, flee. And while the concept is simple, it's often challenging to embody because we're so deeply conditioned to perceive each other through our judgments. And so with practice, the tools of NVC can help us navigate within ourselves to transform blame and judgment, where neither our own needs nor those of the other person are likely to be met, into mutual awareness of human needs. We're going to switch from thinking in language that alienate us from one another to a new way of thinking. So thinking language can be something like diagnosing, judgments, labels, analysis, criticism, comparison, etc. Deserve thinking. They're very deserving of thinking. For example, certain behaviors merit punishment or rewards. There might be some truth to that. Demands is also a thinking language. Denial of the other person's choice. It's an intention to punish those who don't do it. A denial of choice or responsibility might be had to, should, supposed to, they made me do it, etc. And the purpose of NVC is to inspire compassionate, heartfelt connection so that all needs may be valued, to connect to the life in ourselves and others, to be inspired and to inspire others to give from the heart. Because in every moment, each of us trying to meet our needs, each of us is trying to meet our needs in the best way we know how. That's a quote directly from Marshall Rosenberg, who developed NVC during the Civil Rights era. It was influenced by Carl Rogers. You know who Carl Rogers is? Yes, the one and the only. You know who he is. Mr. Rogers. I must say that I was definitely influenced by Mr. Rogers. I think he's a very amazing individual. This other quote is pretty poignant, I think. Judgments and violence are tragic expressions of unmet needs. Take a moment to really think about, what does that mean? I will pause for reflection a few times throughout the course of this. So you might want to take notes, reflect on these things, because they're important. They're important. There's a reason. Every piece that I offer you is tied into what's coming next. So do pay attention. What NVC is not, it's not about being nice. It's about being real. And it's not about stifling intensity, but transforming it. It's not about changing other people or getting them to do what we want, which would be nice, right? The world would be so much better if everyone would just learn to think the way that I think and feel, right? What it is about creating connection and understanding. NVC is not a technique or a formula. It's a process that helps us guide our consciousness to a new awareness. What does that even mean? Let's find out. There are 4 components of an NVC expression. You're going to hear this frequently. OFNR. Observations, feelings, needs, and then a request. An observation is free of judgments. It doesn't have any labels. There's no diagnosis. There's no opinion. The observation is quite literally something a camera could pick up. If somebody was watching and observing with a video camera, what would they see? What would they hear? What would be picked up by the camera? It means that you're letting go of all of the internal monkey chatter inside the brain. And our feelings are not connected to our thoughts. They're free of thoughts. Examples of feelings when these are met might be affection, confidence, excited, exhilarated, engaged, grateful, inspired, hopeful, joyful, calm, exuberant, refreshed. And when they're not met, you might feel annoyed, angry, uneasy, disgusted, detached, embarrassed, tired, tense, sad, vulnerable, scared, or in pain. And now needs are universal. Universal human needs are free of strategies. Now this is an important distinction, to be free of strategies. We're going to get into this deeper, but there are examples of the needs. Perhaps a need for beauty, autonomy, a need for mourning, honesty, a need for empathy, a need for love, a need for meaning, a need for safety, a need for community, contribution, respect, mutuality, authenticity, a need to be valued, a need for transparency. You might have heard me use that word a few times already. A need to play, for acceptance or support. And then that final piece, request. It's important that a request be free of demands. We all know what a request sounds like that's actually a demand in disguise. You know, when your partner asks you to take out the garbage. Or my favorite demand in disguise. It's not really a request, is it? Listen. License and registration, please. Yeah, not really a request, is it? We can get deeper into that later on. Now, there are 2 ways of moving towards connection. We already touched on this just slightly. You can honestly express your own feelings and needs through ongoing awareness of your feelings and connected needs in the present moment, with a willingness and courage to express those feelings and needs, which is how we define vulnerability. Or you can empathically listen to others' feelings and needs. And the qualities of empathic listening are presence, focus, giving space, caring, verbal reflection of feelings and needs. It's not advising, fixing, consoling, storytelling, sympathizing, analyzing, explaining. No matter what is said, you're going to only hear feelings, needs, observations, and requests. Some of those statements reflection statements might be like this. Hey, when I see this, when I hear this, or when I notice this, I feel because I need or value. Would you be willing to? So that's an example of an observation, a feeling, a need, and a request. Example, when I see you read the newspaper while I'm talking, I feel frustrated because I want to be heard. Would you be willing to put down the newspaper for a few minutes and just hear my ideas? Starting to make sense a little bit? Are you feeling because you need? Remember that. Write that down. We're going to use this often. There are 4 ways to listen. I'm going to put some emotion into these statements as I read them out loud. Just notice what occurs for you in your body. What does it feel like in your body as I read each one of these? How dare you walk out of the room when I'm talking, you inconsiderate SOB. You just can't stand to hear the truth. The person who's now blaming me, SOB, how about you? You're the one who started all this in the first place. You are so self-righteous telling me I'm inconsiderate. You've never thought about another human being besides yourself your entire life. Now person B blames himself. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be so disrespectful. It's just that I don't know what to do. I never know what to do or what to say, and I feel so worthless. Or now person B, who might be sensing his or her own feelings, might say something like this: when I hear you say that, I feel hurt because I'm needing respect and to be seen for who I am. And I really need some space because I'm in a lot of pain right now. Would you be willing to tell me what you heard me just say? And finally, B, sensing person A's feelings, might have responded: are you feeling angry? Are you angry? Are you wanting respect and to be heard? Now, it's kind of difficult sometimes to give examples outside of the context of an actual situation, because in a situation where we are feeling triggered or feeling our needs are being pulled away or not met, you might not want to use these exact words. You might react like person B in the first or second example. But with practice, and that's what we're going to do, we do a lot of these practice dialogues in our coaching program, so that you start employing these in your life and stop being triggered by everything. By everything. What if I told you that by the time you complete this program, you won't be triggered pretty much at all ever again? Because you'll be able to respond instead of react, because you'll have the tools to do that. Let's look at these other examples, the 4 years. Very similar to the first examples. And I'm going to read them with a little bit of inflection of my voice to try to act it out. And I just want you to listen. I want you to notice what shows up for you in your body. What do you sense? What do you feel as I say these things? Let's say mom has an hour and a half coffee break with a friend. It's going to be her first time away from her children in 3 days. Her 6-year-old comes to her and says, Mama, I don't want you to go. What could be more important than being with me? Tugging at her leg, crying loudly. Mom might react by blaming the child. Let go of my leg and be quiet. You've got no reason to cry. I've been with you all day. You always make this so hard when all I want to do is have a few minutes to myself. Or maybe you're the mom that blames herself. Oh my gosh, I've really upset you. Why do I always do this? Why am I so selfish? I'm such an awful mother. Or, with an MVC toolkit, mom might respond by sensing her own feelings and needs. Honey, I'm really feeling exhausted and just needing to have some personal time to connect with my good friend. You know, Betty, would you be willing to let Mary, the babysitter, hold you for a bit while I go out? Or, mom might respond by sensing her child's feelings and needs and say, hey, are you feeling sad and wanting to be held? Are you feeling hurt and needing to know that you are precious and loved? And just notice, what does that feel like in your body hearing these different statements? Are you starting to pick up on the nuances here? They're subtle, but they're kind of in your face at the same time. Let's move on. So the 4 R's, you've heard them now. There was the attacking or blaming. And then there was the sensing our own feelings and needs, or sensing the feeling and needs. Blaming, however, is the realm of the jackal. And the jackal part of us sees the only choice as flight, to submit or flee. More likely, the jackal doesn't even see choices, but responds in a habitual or automatic manner. Now, Marshall Rosenberg used to do these presentations on stage with 2 puppets, one on each hand. One was a giraffe, and the other was a jackal. And he would point out that at any given moment you can respond in one of 2 ways. There are 4 ears listening. You can be the giraffe. You can take a moment to just be in silence, to sense your own feelings and needs before you respond. What animal in the animal kingdom has the largest heart? Do you know? I'll tell you. It's the giraffe. It takes a very large heart to pump that blood up all the way up that neck to that head, right? And the jackal, excuse me, is this ground animal that's a scavenger, that's more reactive, right? And so when we think of the different aspects of our personality in these 2 archetypes, the jackal or the giraffe, it kind of gives us some context to think about. Would you rather be like the giraffe, or would you want to be the jackal? I like the giraffe. They're a very graceful animal. They're funny looking, I admit. They are. But that's a judgment, right? But they're beautiful. They got those long legs and long neck, and they're very serene. Of course, that's also a judgment. But when I think of a jackal, I think of this kind of unkempt animal. They're kind of scroungy looking, right? They're not very attractive. You don't. No one's ever said I want a jackal as a pet, right? They're not. They're not even. Blah. All right, let's move on. What other people are saying. We're each responsible for how we hear what other people are saying. Because connection is the realm of the giraffe. And the giraffe part of us knows that there are two ways to connect in any moment: to sense our own feelings and needs, or to sense the feelings and needs of other people. The giraffe is also keenly aware of the choices they are making in every moment. In my experience, learning NVC involves a different kind of understanding or learning. It's very little about learning from the head or making sense of concepts. It's more learning from the heart. And it's about learning with the whole being. It's been about expanding my awareness. It's not a linear progression, but spiraling more deeply and more expansively as we learn and evolve. And I have observed personally that this kind of learning does not happen very meaningfully by talking about NVC. It happens most powerfully when we seek to connect with one another and with ourselves. And we engage in and witness the experience of NVC. The learning happens in the struggle and the longing to connect. And I am more empowered to engage in NVC when I remember that it is not about getting it right, but about moving toward the connection that I want. What Marshall used to call growing progressively less stupid. And amidst these experiences, each one of us is learning what we are ready for. In the same exercise or experience, we may each be learning something very different. I find that I'm nearly always surprised. And if I'm willing to share my experiences, I often notice that my own learning seems to deepen as it is received by the other person or the people that I'm with. So what other people are saying is about creating the internal space that nurtures learning and connection. I found that my learning of NVC happens more fully when I create a place in myself that supports that learning. A place of spaciousness, putting more stuff in, or discovering what's already there. Not a place of awareness of self in this moment, but noticing my thoughts, my body sensations, my feelings, my intentions, my needs, my choices. A place of openness. Finding where I am tense or distracted and letting go to a place of being alert, yet relaxed. Not doing, but being. A place of choice where there is no have to, no should, no supposed to. There are only choices. A place of self-compassion where there are no judgments, no right or wrong, no punishments or rewards. Remembering that I am trying to get my needs met in the best way I know how. A place where I remember what I am responsible for and what I am not responsible for. What are your intentions for being here? Only you are responsible for your intentions, your feelings, your needs, your choices. And only I am responsible for my intentions, my feelings, my needs, my choices. Nurtures learning and connection. NVC does do that. Creating the community space that nurtures learning and connection. We're each creating and co-creating and contributing to the quality of the community space that holds us, whether we are conscious of it or not. And what my intention is, and where I focus my intention and attention, and the choices I make, each of these becomes a part of the texture of the space. And in my experience, certain qualities in that space support connection and learning among us. A space of remembering our common intention for coming together, connect with one another, to learn and grow in our understanding of that connection, and in the process of NVC that takes us toward it. A space of inclusiveness, where each person is invited and given the space to be heard, where your needs matter as much as my own. A space of authenticity and needs as best as I can. A space of empathy, where I vulnerably express my own feelings, where I strive to hear feelings and needs no matter what is being said, where I give each person plenty of space until that person has been fully heard. A space of conscious choice, where I strive to hold our common intention, the needs of each person, and my own needs as I choose how to best meet these needs. Where I honor the choices of those around me. It is a space of compassion, where there are no judgments, no right or wrong, no demands, no punishments or rewards, only people trying to get their needs met in the best way they know how. So I've pretty much set the tone for the rest of this workshop. We're about halfway through. If you don't already have a notebook and pen, please grab one. And remember, what are the intentions with which you came? Take responsibility for their fulfillment. And pause often to notice what is going on within you. Connect to your own feelings and needs. And express your needs and ask for what would fulfill them. Obviously, if you're watching the recording here, it might be challenging, but you can write it down. And remember the common intentions of the group, or whatever group you're part of. And before speaking in the group, be clear what your own needs are and what specific requests you have of the group to meet your needs. And when another person is speaking, focus on the feelings and needs. When another person is speaking, pause or check in to see if they're complete before expressing what is stirred up in you. Please remember, we're all doing the best that we can. To enhance your learning, here are just a few strategies that may enhance your learning after the workshop. Get empathy. Empathy is a fuel we need to connect. Find an empathy buddy and meet at least weekly. Participate in an NVC practice group. We have several here in my town. Meet with an experienced mentor such as myself who can nurture your growth. Participate in an NVC immersion training. I've already mentioned, got one coming up. You can find out about it by going to my website, theheartcenteredbeing.com, or you can just send me an email. We strive to live NVC throughout our lives, at home, in the workplace, in the organizations in which we participate. Pause often to notice what's going on with you. Connect to your own feelings and needs. Meditate on your needs. And love your jackal. He has many gifts for you. As a Tantra teacher, we learn to identify the different archetypes that are within ourselves. Western psychology has taught us and told us that the ego is this thing that's a problem, that it must be overcome, that you must learn to suppress it or subdue it or outgrow it, which I think is interesting. If you think about that, there might be some truth to part of that. The Buddhist philosophy has a different idea about the ego. They meditate. The concept of meditation is to transcend or transform the ego, to move beyond it, to move through it, to go through it as through the chakras on the way towards ascension. To overcome the ego is the path to enlightenment. That might be true. I think that is a beautiful expression. Then I discovered Tantra, and Tantric philosophy has a very, very different idea about the ego, about the archetypes, about the different aspects of our humanity. Tantra says, you know what? Rather than trying to transmute it, transcend it, grow it, subdue it, suppress it, why don't you just accept it? Why don't you integrate that part of you? Because it is you. Why don't you love that part of you? Perhaps your ego is your jackal. He has many gifts for you, as does your ego. I've got this slide here, which is meant to just give you some ideas about observations versus evaluations. Because when we express what has stimulated us or activated us, we strive in NVC to express it without blame or criticism, simply by stating the observation of what happened without the evaluation. So observation with the evaluation mixed in is on the left. Observation separated from evaluation is on the right. Now these are supposed to be related, left to right. I'll read them out loud. I just want you to, maybe you might want to just close your eyes and listen to the way these land. You are too generous. When I see you give your lunch money to others, I think you are too generous. Doug procrastinates. Doug studied for the exam the night before. She won't get her work in. Versus, I don't think she'll get her work in. If you don't eat balanced meals, your health will be impaired. If you don't eat balanced meals, I fear that your health will be impaired. Minorities don't take care of their property. I have not seen the family living at 1679 Ross shovel the snow on their sidewalk. Hank Smith is a poor soccer player. Hank Smith has not scored a goal in 20 games. That one hit me. Some of our fellow sports fans might feel that one. This one's good. Jim is ugly. Jim's looks don't appeal to me. You seldom do what I want. The last 3 times I initiated an activity, you said you didn't want to do it. He frequently comes over. He comes over at least twice a week. So again, that was observations versus evaluations. We're going to go a little deeper. You ready? Observation cues. How do we know if it's an observation? It will probably start with the words when I see or when I hear, or when I recall seeing, or when I recall hearing, or when I imagine seeing or hearing. More specific examples: when I see you reading the newspaper, when I hear you say, I'll never amount to anything, when I remember seeing you hit the table with your fist. Remember, to observe without evaluation is the highest form of human intelligence, more specifically emotional intelligence. Let's go a little bit deeper. What are our observation cues? You're going to ask yourself, is my observation free of an evaluation? Can my observation be recorded by the lens of a movie camera or the mic of a tape recorder? Remember, I kind of hit that at the beginning, right? Does my observation contain words such as always, never, whenever, constantly, etc.? And am I using these words factually or evaluatively? Remember that intimacy is a constant process of attuning to our feelings, our needs, constantly tuning in, checking in, slowing down, which is not something that most Americans do, right? That was a judgment. It is a judgment. I'm aware that that's a judgment. Are you aware that I just made a judgment? Everything that I do here is with intention. Hopefully, so that you're picking up a few things along the way. Our awareness of feelings. Distinguishing feelings from thoughts. What? There's a difference? Yes, there is. Feelings are our barometers to tell us whether our needs are being met or not. And if we're experiencing pleasurable feelings like joy or relief or calm, our present need is being met. And if we're experiencing painful feelings, for example, disappointment, frustration, sadness, disconnection, that's one that I'm feeling right now as I do this presentation for you right now, something in my personal life, then it means our present need is not being met. As long as we are alive, we are always experiencing feelings regardless of whether we are aware of them or not. Our feelings are dynamic, often changing every few seconds. And by training ourselves to be more mindful of our feelings and more aware of the nuance of feelings, we gain a greater understanding of connection within ourselves. Some exercises to help build awareness of feelings. I have a feelings list that would be included in the recording that comes along with this. And you'll be able to download that. And it's one of the first assignments that we do in lesson 1 of our 10-week coaching program. We take the list of feelings, and the first assignment is to look them up in the dictionary and write down the definition as it is in the dictionary. And what that is supposed to do, and the intention behind that, is to help you boost your vocabulary around emotions and needs. And you're going to read over that entire feelings list slowly out loud, if you're comfortable doing so. You're going to pause at least 5 or 10 seconds on each feeling. And just notice how saying out out loud each one feels in your body. You might do this when you're alone if you don't feel good about doing it out loud. I do invite you to do it out loud, though. It's a very different experience to read it out loud and feel it in your body. And then you're going to pick a feeling from that list, and you're going to spend at least 1 or 2 minutes to experience each of the following related to that feeling. First, you're going to remember a time when you felt that feeling. And then you notice any body sensations. Notice anything that comes up for you as you pick that feeling. And then the invitation will be to express that feeling through some sort of movement and sound. You know, when we do these in a group live, people make some fun sounds. It's really nice. Sound is energy. Movement is energy. And we transmute, transcend, and move energy with sound and movement. And that helps us feel the feelings. Feelings versus thoughts. Authentic feelings emanate from the heart. They express vulnerability. Our language, the English language more specifically, enables us to use the word feel when we're actually expressing thoughts, not feelings. For example, you might say, I feel like you aren't telling the truth. The thought that is being translated there is, I think you aren't telling the truth. I feel inadequate to raise my children. This is a perception of ourselves. Translated, it's, I think I'm inadequate to raise my children. This is one of my favorite ones because this hits a lot of people right away. I feel abandoned. This is a perception of what others are doing to us. It has little to do with feelings. Translated, I think that you have abandoned me. We get a little deeper in our coaching program about feelings versus needs and understanding what we call non-feeling words like abandon. These words like abandon, they appear frequently in our language. There's lots of things that you can add to the words I feel and then add in another word there. Here are some of those non-feeling words. These are thoughts that sound like feelings. And I want to again remind you, we go pretty deep into this in the coaching program, but this is just a start. You might hear these words: neglected, manipulated, abused, misunderstood, mistreated, unappreciated, betrayed, taken for granted, disrespected. How many times have you said that or heard someone say, I feel disrespected, bullied, put down, violated, insulted, or victimized? I'm going to invite you, I read that really quick. I'm going to invite a pause here for you to either take notes or just reflect on each of these words. I want you to take a moment to consider any time you've ever said those words after the words I feel, or you've heard someone else say them. These are thoughts, once more, not feelings. These are non-feeling words. And I know whenever I've introduced this concept to a lot of people, there is often some pushback because people are waking up and realizing they've been using words incorrectly. And that's part of what creates disconnection. This is the core of nonviolent communication. The use of words inappropriately is a form of violence. All of these things said to somebody else is a way of trying to make them responsible for your internal feeling space. It's basically making yourself the victim and blaming them. And remember, we don't want to be in that jackal space. We want to be in the heart space. We want to be like the giraffe. Now, let's move on to needs, because the life energy in each of us is based on needs. At the core of NVC is the awareness of that life energy that stirs in each of us in every moment. And we see this life energy related to a quality we cherish which sustains life. It may be expressed as a particular dream, a need, a want, longing, or desire whose fulfillment or lack of fulfillment causes our feelings. In NVC, we try to identify the universal human needs that are common to all human beings. And we distinguish these fundamental needs from a more specific time, place, person, or action. Wants and desires which reflect strategies to fulfill these needs. The distinction of needs versus strategies is a crucial distinction in the NVC toolbox. The following list of needs is neither exhaustive nor definitive. And while needs are universal, the words to express them are simply words. And different people may use different words to convey a perceived need. And as we develop our vocabulary of needs, our objective is not about correctness, but awareness. I'm gonna give you that list of needs in a downloadable film that you can print and have with you. It'll be included in the recording. Normally I do this class out loud and I pass the sheet out at that point. But you're going to read over that entire list very slowly, out loud if you're able to do so. Just pausing for a few seconds between each need that you read out loud. And just like we did with the feelings list, you're going to pick a need for that list and spend a few moments to experience each of the following. Take a moment to remember when that need was not met for you. And as you focus on remembering this past moment, notice any body sensations within you. What feelings arise in you? And I want to invite you to simply be with this feeling and this need for a few moments. And now, imagine this need being richly and completely fulfilled for you. And spend the next few moments experiencing the following. What are you imagining would be happening? What body sensations show up for you? What feelings arise? And now just simply be with this feeling and this need for a few more moments. And now, what request might you make of yourself that would contribute toward this need being fulfilled in your life? Taking responsibility for our feelings. This is important. This is where we start to get really deep here. And we take responsibility for our own feelings by connecting them to the need within us that is either being met or not met. And we contrast this expression to the more common way that we often blame for our feelings. And when we blame others for our feelings, we tend to stimulate feelings of guilt in the other person. For example, I'm disappointed because I would like companionship. Or you never want to spend time with me. Why are you so selfish? And if we express our needs, we have a better chance of getting them met. And believe me, I know that most of us have been taught, or never been taught, how to identify our needs. And that's a big part of what we do. Because a need is universal. It's a human quality without reference to a person, a place, or time. And a request is a specific strategy to meet a need that usually involves a particular person doing something at a particular time. For example, I have a need for companionship. And I can imagine that need being met by making a particular request of you. Would you be willing to meet with me at 2 p.m. at Williams Restaurant for a cup of coffee and a conversation? And if they say no, then they may try other dates and times or places. That might work. Or you may ask someone else to meet them. Because if you're relying on only the one person, that's not really going to help you make that need met. You get that need met from anyone, right? Because for every need, there are enormous, an infinite range of possible strategies that could meet that need. There are selfful versus selfish versus selfless strategies. The selfish one is, I only value my own needs. The selfless is, I only value others' needs. Kind of people pleaser, right? The selfful, I value my own needs and others' needs equally. So if you see yourself as either one or two, my hope for you is that by the time you complete the training, you would move on to 3. The path to emotional liberation, because this is a path. Nonviolent communication is a journey. Stage 1, emotional slavery. We believe we are responsible for the feelings of others. Sound familiar to anyone? Stage 2, the obnoxious. We no longer want to be responsible for the feelings of others, and we often express it with anger. Stage 3, emotional liberation. We accept responsibility for our own intentions and actions, but not the feelings of others. And we respond to the needs of others only out of compassion and a desire to contribute, never guilt, fear, or shame. Requests, getting onto the good stuff, versus demands. Only after a connection has happened between people, for example, mutual understanding of each person's feelings and needs, can we seek to find solutions. Connection first, then solutions. That's an important thing to remember, because we're more likely to get our needs met when we are, one, conscious of our needs, and two, we explicitly make a request that may fulfill our needs. Ask for what you need. In making a request, we honor a no as much as a yes. For example, are you willing to try to understand what a person is saying yes to while they are saying no to us? And do we value others' needs in that moment as much as our own? I kind of gave the example of requests versus demands earlier, but these are a few more. You. I'd really like to understand your needs so we can work this problem out. Would you be willing to talk about it now for 5 minutes? Mary, I don't want to talk now. You respond, are you exhausted and want to get some rest? Mary, no, I just want to sit here and be left alone. Okay, so you just want to be just right now. Yeah, just leave me alone. Okay, I would want to trust that we'll work this out soon. Would you be willing to talk this afternoon after lunch? Maybe so, but not now. Okay, I'll check with you after lunch. Request cues that were in there. Would you be willing to blank? Request check. Requests are clear, positive, immediately doable. They often offer a tangible solution to meetings, needs in the moment. You may notice that when I provided these samples, I did fluctuate my voice to kind of play act it out for you. If you've been in a scenario like this before, you might be thinking, well, why didn't that person just leave when Mary said it the first time? What I want you to pay attention to is that Mary is in her jackal space. She's reactive. You are responding, in this example, from the giraffe. You're not submitting to their demands of going away. You're still keeping the door open for connection. And you might have noticed that Mary was responsive. It didn't escalate. She didn't start screaming and yelling, go away, get the fuck away from me. Pardon my language. Instead, in this example, you invited connection and leaving the door open, right? I'll check with you after lunch, right? Here are a few more examples. Would you meet me for coffee at 3:30 tomorrow at the coffee shop? Or would you have a conversation with me sometime? The first is clear, the second is vague. More positive. Would you be willing to explore with me what needs of yours are met by smoking? Negative. Would you stop smoking? Doable. Would you be willing to tell me what you just heard me say? Not doable. Would you listen to me? I go much deeper into each of these examples in the training, but this is just meant to give you an overview so you start to hear the different ways in which we might be able to communicate, make requests, and which ones are actually demands in disguise. There are connection requests. Did the person hear what you wanted to communicate? Would you be willing to tell me what you just heard me say? What's going on in the other person after hearing what you said? Would you be willing to tell me how you feel after hearing what I said? Giving and receiving gratitude. Gratitude or appreciation is recognizing when a person has contributed to our life or to the lives of others. Expressing gratitude in NVC is in 3 parts. What specifically did the other person do that enriched your life? And how do you feel now as you recall what they did? What need of yours was met by what they did? Note that these parts are simply the first 3 parts of an NVC expression, the observation, the feeling, and need. For example, when I remember you asking if I could use some help this morning, I felt gratitude because I value, very much value, mutual support among our team. We get to do gratitude practice every day during the coaching program. And it is a practice, one that I invite everyone to do in their daily lives, not just in the program. You don't even have to join the program to start a gratitude practice, but I would suggest finding something to be grateful for every day. It can really change your life. In NVC, I receive appreciation joyfully, even with awe, as I hold in my awareness this power that flows through me to enrich life for others. It is often hard to receive appreciation fully because it is hard to recognize this beauty and power within us. And this is a very different experience than we may often respond to compliments through false humility or a feeling of superiority. False humility, for example, denies the importance of the appreciation, like it was nothing. A feeling of superiority, thinking I'm better than others because I received appreciation or a compliment. The opposite of humility, right? Appreciation versus compliments. There's a difference. Appreciation, what's alive in ourselves, feelings, and needs that are met, stimulated by the other person's actions. So you might give a compliment. A compliment, you're really great, good job, you're a kind person. A compliment is a positive judgment of the other person. And compliments, though positive, are still judgments of other people. And they're often used to manipulate the behavior of others. You might want to write that down. They're often used to manipulate the behavior of others. So let's switch back. Because the more you become a connoisseur of gratitude, the less you are a victim of resentment, depression, and despair. Gratitude will act as an elixir that will gradually dissolve the hard shell of your ego, your need to possess and control, and transform you into a generous being. And the sense of gratitude produces true spiritual alchemy. It makes us magnanimous, large-souled. Sam Keen, love that guy. Hunger for appreciation. We tend to notice and express what's wrong rather than what's right. And we're all hungry for our intentions to enrich the lives of others to be recognized. So I ask you, what appreciation might someone give you that would leave you jumping for joy? Take a moment. Pause this recording and write it down. All right, guys. This is the end. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to nonviolent communication. I would love to have you in my coaching program, which I have recently renamed as the Compassion Project. You can contact me at connect@theheartcenteredbeing.com by email, or you can send me a message on my website, theheartcenteredbeing.com. By the way, I am also on Instagram as theheartcenteredbeing.com. I'm also on LinkedIn as The Heart Centered Being. I have a Facebook page, The Heart Centered Being. I also have a YouTube channel, The Heart Centered Being. And I'd love for you to follow me on any or all of those platforms. You can also find me on Eventbrite at as The Heart Centered Being. And on all of them, everything. Again, my name is Shiva J, aka The Heart Centered Being. And it's been a joy to have you here with us today.